Richard Lionheart is one of history's greatest Christian military leaders. His passion for battle brought him within 12 miles of capturing Jerusalem and retaking the Holy Land. But his love of battle would be the cause of his downfall. This is the tragic story of how Richard Lionheart died. This story begins in September 1192. After a long and bloody campaign in the Holy Land, Richard's time in the Crusades was coming to an end. His army had gotten agonizingly close to retaking Jerusalem. They retreated just 12 miles from their destination, but the military victories had come at a cost. Rumors had been circulating that his kingdom was under attack and he was rapidly losing territories. Richard knew that it was time to go back home. So he signed a peace deal with the Muslim leader Saladin. While not the decisive win he wanted, the truce allowed Christians to enter Jerusalem safely. The journey back home to England, though, would prove to be a disaster. His ship crashed, and Richard was forced to travel through Central Europe. The king was convinced that if he could get to the territory that was controlled by his brother-in-law, Henry the Lion, he would be safe. There was just one major problem. That would force him to go through Austria. This land was controlled by Duke Leopold V, King Richard's fierce rival. They had fought alongside each other in the Crusades. But after the successful siege of Acre, the Austrian ruler raised his flag. This upset Richard, who thought that only kings should be able to raise their flags. In disgust, he ordered the flag be torn down and trampled in the mud. Humiliated, the Duke left the Holy Land. When he heard that King Richard was moving through his territory, the Duke leapt at the chance to take his revenge. He issued an arrest warrant and ordered his men to search for his rival. Richard tried to move undetected, dressing as a commoner and traveling with a handful of guards. But his bejeweled ring gave him away, and he was arrested. At first, he was held prisoner by Duke Leopold, but he was soon sent to Sicily, where he was kept captive by Holy Roman Emperor Henry VI. At first, Richard was treated well, but he refused to show respect to Henry. After this, things swiftly went downhill. Richard was kept under chains that were so heavy that a horse would struggle to move them. Henry refused to release Richard until his ransom was met. Back in England, Richard's kingdom was being torn apart. His brother John wanted to become ruler, so he decided to team up with King Philip from France. Though Richard's mother, Eleanor, was working frantically to raise the money to get her son released, this was a slow process. All Richard could do was sit in jail, watching his precious lands get stripped away. Eventually, though, after being kept prisoner for 2 years, Richard was freed. He quickly raised an army and started fighting to reclaim his land. The journey brought his army to France, pitting them against the forces of King Philip. This campaign was progressing well. Thanks to his battle prowess, Richard was quickly recovering his lost territory. In 1194, the French king fled the country entirely. For a time, it seemed as though Richard could finally have peace. But this wasn't to be. There was a revolt in Limousin. Never one to shy away from a battle, the king rode into battle and had a decisive victory. But he wasn't finished. He decided to lay siege to a tiny, virtually undefended castle. Some have speculated that there was a trove of Roman treasure inside, which Richard hoped to capture. Never wanting to stray from a fight, the king approached the battle without any armor. This was a grave mistake, as he got struck by an arrow. Within days, gangrene had infected the wound. It was clear that this would be fatal. Richard's final act as king was to summon the archer who shot him to his bedside. Learning that he was only a boy, he paid him 100 shillings and set him free. Finally, The king died in the arms of his heartbroken mother. Sadly, the members of his army weren't so merciful. They hunted down the archer who killed their king and flayed him. Though he might have met a tragic end, the legend of King Richard the Lionheart lives on. Richard Lionheart is one of history's greatest Christian military leaders. His passion for battle brought him within 12 miles of capturing Jerusalem and retaking the Holy Land. But his love of battle would be the cause of his downfall. To this day, his statue stands outside the UK House of Parliament, reminding politicians of the bravery and sacrifice needed to be a worthy leader.